Welcome to episode 41 of Adventures in Welding. This is a special episode because apparently I've been a good welder. And Santa Claus has come early, about a week early. Today's December 17th. Merry Christmas to you and yours. Happy Hanukkah. Have a great holiday season, whoever you are out there. But as you can see, we've got a nice box here from our friends at Eastwood. Let's see what's inside. Right on top, nicely packed, is the instruction manual for the Eastwood TIG 200 AC/DC welder. We'll put that over here for later. Packing. This is, look in here. This is packed very well. Packing. This is not packed. What do we got here? Aha! What we've got here, make sure that's just packing left there. What we've got here is our regulator. Since this is a gas-shielded arc welding process, you're going to have gas, and for the TIG process, as you know, we'll be using argon. So we've got our regulator here, 2 gauges. This is going to show you your tank pressure. This is going to show you your operating pressure. And we'll get to that when we get to the setup. Packing. A lot of packing. Packing. Maybe we should pull the machine out. If we can. Boy, oh boy. Alright, here's a nice little box. Let's see what's in here. Alright, wow, look at this. We've got a gas hose. This comes with the 5/8 NPT fittings to fit our regulator and tank. Very nice. You usually have to buy those separate. Here's our grounding clamp. It's a nice heavy clamp. It's got the thick copper braid inside to clamp on, give you nice little places to ground out. This is a DINS 25 connector. This is the 3/8 inch connector. The DINS 35 is the 1/2 inch, but this is very common, which is great. And I'm going to tell you something else. This is some flexible ground hose. Hey, wire. All right, let's see what else we got. This is quite a packing job we've done here, but everything is packed very well. What do we got in here? This is the plug. Here you go. Since this is a dual voltage unit, what you got here is the very nice pigtail adapter. Here's your 220 plug off the back of the machine. You take that, plug it into your pigtail adapter. Now, you've got a 110 plug that you can use in any household outlet. Check the manual to see what size breaker you're going to need, though. There we go. Empty. There's a little bag in which I suspect we'll find our TIG torch. We'll get to that in a minute. Packing. Here we go. If you're going to be TIG welding, you're definitely going to want a foot pedal. You need to control that amperage. Roll on at the beginning, roll off when your metal starts getting a little hot. be able to control it. This one has two connectors and an external amperage control. Check your manual, see what those are for, but we'll get into it in our setup. Alright, let's bring out the machine itself. Here we have our machine. Let's take a look at the front here. We've got our controls and our connections. Don't worry, I'm going to go over all of this in our setup video. On the top here is a nice chart to show you beginning settings. And on the back, you have a dual fan unit. There's your power switch. And there's your gas input. What do you say we go downstairs to the shop, set this up, and see what we got? Alright, we're down in the shop now. We brought the Eastwood TIG 200 down here, and we're going to go through the setup process. We've got our argon tank over here. We got our machine. Here's our foot pedal. Now the foot pedal has two separate connectors, a 2 connector and a 3 connector. If you're going to use the trigger on the torch, then it is going to connect right here into the 2 connector port on the front of the machine. If you're going to use the foot switch, you're going to connect that torch trigger and connect both of them, the 2 connector and the 3 connector, from the foot pedal to the front of the machine. This is your ground or work lead connector, and this is your torch connector. Up here are the settings, and we'll get into that in a little bit. The first thing we're going to do is hook up our Argon Regulator, and hooking up your Argon Regulator and hose to the Eastwood TIG 200 is pretty simple. Comes with everything you need but a crescent wrench. And of course a bottle of argon. You have to get that from your local gas supplier. This is called an S-size bottle. You've got your regulator with this nice big threaded nut here. And all you have to do is screw it in here. First thing you want to do, crack the tank just like that. Make sure there's no dirt or debris in there. And then thread your nut in. Get it nice and snug by hand. Then bring out the crescent wrench, or a box end wrench if you've got one the right size. Make sure it's good and tight. Okay? The next thing we're going to do is take our hose with these rotating 5/8 inch fittings, thread them in here, get our crescent wrench on here, and make sure they're nice and snug. The final setting we have to make is on the back of the machine. Let's do that now. Here we are at the back of the machine. And down at the bottom here, you see this fitting marked AR, which is the chemical symbol for argon. So you want to screw the other end of your gas hose fitting in there. Nice and tight. Get your crescent wrench on there and snug it up good, but don't go gangbusters on it. Just make sure it's good and snug. Next, we'll test the connections. All right, with everything adjusted nice and tight, we're going to make sure that the regulator is backed out. And what I mean by that is unscrewed counterclockwise so that it is free floating on here. If there's any pressure on that diaphragm when you turn it on, it could blow. Also, you notice I'm standing behind the bottle, not in front of it, in case these gauges decide to blow. And I'm going to slowly open my tank. All right, our tank is showing pressure of about 1,100 pounds, and I'm going to open it the entire way because this is a double-seated valve. That means the valve seats and seals in the fully closed or fully open position. Now I've got a cup of water here with a little bit of dish soap in it. And I'm just going to put a little bit on the joints. And if there is any leaking, you'll see them begin to bubble. There's no leak here, so let's add some pressure to our regulator. We want about 12 pounds of working pressure. That looks pretty good there. We'll adjust this later. This is just for a test. I'm going to splash some soapy water on there. No bubbles, no leaks. And finally, the same thing to the back of the machine. No bubbles equals no leaks. So our argon setup is good. I'm going to wipe that all dry, and then we'll get set with the rest. Okay, for the next step in the setup process, we're going to connect the work lead to the front of the machine. Again, this is that DINS connector, and you can see the little notch there that fits on the keyway, and you turn it about 3/4 of a turn, and it's locked in there. Now my bench is all metal, and what I generally do for grounding is just clamp to the bench. You can do that. You can clamp to your work, however it works best for you. Next thing we're going to set up is the foot pedal. Now I put zip ties on here because I've got issues with wires floating around. Here's our two connectors. One is 2-pin, one is 3-pin, and they got easy little quick locks on them. So we'll put in the 2-pin. Just find where the flat spot is. It's down, and connect it. Nice and snug. Don't use a wrench on this. It's not necessary. And our 3-pin. Make sure you don't cross thread them when you get them on there. There we go. Okay. This last connector here is for our torch. Let's go look at our torch. All right, if you remember the bag that we saw upstairs, here it is. Let's open it up and see what's inside. Okay, as I suspected, this is our torch. Here we have some torch parts. And this little plastic
cover we'll get into in just a minute. Let's see what's in this little bag of torch parts. If I can get my giant sausage fingers to open it. Okay. First thing we see here are two pieces of tungsten. One is red and one is green. The red one is a thoriated, the green one is a pure tungsten. Next is our back cap. Two alumina cups are in the bag, a number 7, a number 6, and there's a number 5 already screwed onto the torch. Finally, we have a couple collet adapters, or collets. This looks like a 1/16, and I think this one's a 3/32. So let's see what we got going on here in the torch. This is the number 5 front cup on the torch already. And this is a shorty back cap. Pardon me. Check your manual to see what size collets come in your package. So here's our torch. It has the torch switch on top of it. If you're going to use the torch switch, disconnect both foot panel controls and connect the torch switch to the front panel. Here's our collet adapter, and in there we'll put our tungsten. All right, we'll get to that in a minute. Let's get our torch set up and ready to go. The thing we have to hook up here is our torch. Here are the two parts to the torch connection. This is your trigger switch, and this is the power and gas connection. Now remember what I said, if you're going to use the trigger switch, disconnect the foot pedal controllers and connect the trigger switch to the 2-pin connector. Now, to hook up your torch, you're going to slip this connector over the nut. So you slip that plastic connector over the nut, because if you don't and you just screw it in like this, it'll work, but all this brass is electrically hot and poses a shock or electrocution danger. So then we come over here and we screw this on. I'm going to get it nice and snug, because you don't want any gas leaks. And that's it for our setup for this part. Right now, tungsten grinding. There is our red thoriated tungsten. And as you can see, it has a very flat tip. So we need to grind it. Alright folks, I have my tungsten chucked up here into my handy power drill to spin it. And what I use for grinding is a dedicated 1/2-inch belt sander. You can use an angle grinder if that's all you got, or you can spend a couple of $100 on a dedicated diamond wheel tungsten grinder, but for my needs this handles it pretty well. So what I do is I just turn on the belt sander, hold the tungsten at an angle about like this, rotate the drill while the belt is turning, and get a point that is about 1.5 to 2 times the diameter of the tungsten in length. So you want the point to be tapered about twice as far back. So this looks like a 3/32 inch tungsten. So you're going to want your point to be about twice that. All right, I'll give you a quick demo on how this works. so there's our tungsten. Sharpened to a decent point. I don't know how well you'll be able to see this, but there's a little flat point at the tip. We don't want it to be completely pointed unless we're doing some very low amp stuff. And this is for DC welding on steel. It's going to be a little bit different for AC welding on aluminum, and we'll get into that in the next video. So all that's left now is to put the pieces of our torch together, and we'll be ready to weld. We have our tungsten adapter screwed in there. We slip our tungsten into the collet first. Or you can put the collet in, it doesn't matter what real order you do it in. But they go in adapter, collet, and then tungsten, just like this. And it'll fit through there real nice. Then I'm going to screw on the alumina front cup. This is number 7. With the number 7 front cup, you'll be able to do just about everything you want to do. I want to have about a 1/4 inch stick out. And once I get my cap threaded, it's starting to go here. There we go. I'll adjust my stick out about a 1/4 inch. And that's it. It's ready to weld. So that is it for our setup and unboxing video on the Eastwood TIG 200 welder. In our next video, I'll show you the settings on the machine and we'll do some welding.